right, welcome everybody. I am Lucian Fogoros. I'm the co-founder of IIoT World. And on behalf of my team, the speakers, and the moderator, I want to thank you for joining. The moderator for today is Mark Sage. He will take it over from here. Just a reminder, please pose your question on the Q&A and enjoy your session. Thank you, Mark. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and hello and welcome everybody from wherever you are in the world. I'm super excited to be here moderating this panel today at IIoT World Days. It's been some great presentations and panels already, and I really hope that you're going to enjoy this. I would definitely emphasize about the Q&A. Please feel free to ask any questions. What we're going to be talking about is AR technology trends and applications for industrial IoT. We're going to be talking about some of the use cases, we're going to be talking about some of the benefits, we're going to talk about some of the examples and some of the trends. So this is really all about the great set of panelists that we have here today. So what I'd like to do is ask each one of them to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their history in AR as well. So Rosario, please, can we start with you?
Sure, thank you. Hi everybody, I'm Rosario Casas. I'm a Colombian-born entrepreneur, and I used to be a women in tech advocate and an Hispanic representative, opening doors for many more in these industries. And basically, I lead VR Americas, now XR Americas, a company using spatial computing technologies, VR, AR, MR, and using some advanced analytics in order to help companies solve their relation between training their job, the workforce, and solving business problems, business questions.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Johan, let's move over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Johan Beilot. I'm a US and a French citizen. I'm also the CEO of AR Cortex. I personally have 25 years of experience in AR, spanning from defense to enterprise to consumer-oriented R&D. My company, AR Cortex Inc., specializes in custom software development and system integration in the field of AR, building on my own experience. And we are located in LA. Our work in IoT has been mainly through a concept project with the defense and industrial field, such as, for example, showing the location of a firefighter or a soldier on a video of a building. Thank you.
Okay, great. David, can I hand over to you, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is David Immerman. I'm a research analyst at PTC. Prior to that, I was an Internet of Things analyst at 451 Research. But at PTC, my responsibilities include researching and providing thought leadership on emerging trends and technologies that are relevant to us. For those who don't know us, we're a 6,000 or so employed company based in Boston, Massachusetts. Been around for 30 plus years of selling software to industrial companies, where we have over 30,000 customers. And our heritage kind of starts with CAD and PLM, but through M&A, around 10 years ago, we started to move into IoT. And then 5 years ago, we acquired Euphoria, and that was sort of our initial move into augmented reality. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Fantastic, thank you. And last but definitely not least, Gabriel.
Hi to everybody. I'm Gabriel Bota. I'm from Romania. I live in a beautiful city called Cluj-Napoca, which is the capital of Transylvania. I have a beautiful and crazy team which is obsessed with AR. Actually, I prefer to say that my team has the AR in his blood. We have 36 developers, and we have worked on oil industry. In education, and we try to implement communication through augmented reality. So I will be pleased to tell you more about it.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And we're going to do something slightly different here, in that the first thing we're going to do is actually ask you, the audience, some questions. So perhaps, Lucian, if you can put up the questions. Is that working? Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Sorry, I had my screen hidden. So one of the things that I've certainly found has been a trend since the pandemic is what's happening in terms of AR. So I'd like you, if you can, please to answer this question about has the impact of COVID-19 impacted your company's interest and AR strategy? Please choose one. And what we'll do is we talk through, we'll come back to this towards the end and have a little look at what's kind of happening. So let's kind of get going with the questions. And the first one is about how AR can help with industrial IoT. So what problems can be solved? What use cases? So I think if it's okay, David, I'm going to start with you from a PTC perspective.
Sure. Yeah, obviously as a company that sells IoT and AR, we have a big interest in this space. And interestingly enough, we had recently done a study with the Boston Consulting Group on the impact of IoT and AR together. And what was interesting to me was that 76% of those who were developing only AR solutions believed that adding IoT to their applications would add value, which I thought was a surprisingly high number, given that both industries and markets are sort of in their nascence. But the way I kind of see the intersection of the two technologies is across three different disciplines. So there's, with combining them, there's better ways to manage equipment, so such as diagnosing problems via equipment monitoring or diagnostics. There's better ways to enhance human capabilities, such to improve their skills in factories and other industrial environments. And then there's other ways to better manage spaces, such as the shop floor and seeing assets and their health and performance data as you go along. Focusing just on the IoT enabled equipment aspect, because PTC has a big interest there. I like to think about it as sort of across three different spectrums. So monitoring, managing, and servicing of IoT-enabled equipment and devices. So the first, I think, easiest to understand is the capability of monitoring and being able to see machines or multiple machines in a certain area's live performance data, and bring into the AR field of view. You can see it in context versus maybe a 2D HMI that has the information elsewhere, which is not as helpful to the operator. The second, and I think more interactive layer of it, is the manage capability, where through AR, starting to use that data for virtual dashboards or HMIs to better interact with that machine. It can be as simple as turning on or off the machine, or there's certain more advanced, programming features that can be embedded in. And the third kind of area I see is getting a lot of traction is in service. So using that data to actually complete service actions. And I think with IoT, we can more accurately triage the problems and see underneath the actual machine shell and, so to speak, get an X-ray underneath the skin. And then that can better inform service instructions. And we see those kind of three areas around asset-centric IoT use cases as having similar benefits in terms of improving performance and uptime, which a lot of our customers cite as major concerns to them that they're always trying to improve on a daily basis.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Some great insights there. Rosario.
Well, adding to David's points, because of course what he mentioned is a perfect framework for all of us. I will add the power of creating a visual interface. Augmented reality in some way could be that visual, digital but visual interface that can connect the Internet of Things with the human, with the team's daily work in different industries. And personally for us as a company, we think that right now with the current context, we can see how disconnected are essential workers with the decision makers of those industries. I mean, for the world, essential workers is a word like brand new, while for the industries is where around 50% of their workforce is located. Then for us, the connection between the daily work and training of essential workers is an amazing machine that we can connect with the Internet of Things to produce all the business process owners insights in terms of knowing what's happening during the process, not just at the end of those processes. In those bottom level of the workforce processes, decision makers are taking decisions based on the process was done or not, but know how to improve the delivery of it. With augmented reality, for sure, an Internet of Things connected, we can create a lot of insights and we can create a lot of improvements, giving some power also to that bottom level of the workforce.
I couldn't agree more, and I think there's lots of really unexplored areas in terms of improving not just the individual within the workforce, but the teams and then the whole organization by using AR and the content from IoT. So thank you for that. Gabby, I know we've been speaking before. I'm kind of really interested in some of your thoughts in the use cases bit.
Yeah, I think AR, it's the really next future, because I know that in US and in Emirates, for example, they are using AR in businesses, but in Europe, not so many companies. So we succeeded to implement some good solutions, AR solutions. For example, in oil industry, in Black Sea, to oil extraction platform, we have implemented a good solution to fix problems when, I don't know, an engine, for example, will stop. And Rosario told us a few minutes ago about a screen in AR, and we actually have done that. And you can connect through the continent with the specialist, with the engineer from the platform, which is, I don't know, in the Black Sea, and you can do actually the work with him in real time. And I think for us, this was one of our amazing solution that we have succeeded to implement. And starting from this solution, we have now a couple of another solutions to implement in order to communicate better between the managers from a company. You can connect in a mixed reality room with your team using our solution, our Unreal Optics solution. And you can I don't know, upload or download documents or to work on a document in real time with your team all over the world.
Yes, I think a combination of communication and collaboration is definitely a strong use case that we're seeing right across the piece. And of course, with the unfortunate pandemic, it becomes even more important. Yep. So it's a great use case. Thank you. Johan, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, so obviously I'd like to stress a previously mentioned point of the communication, collaboration, where we might want to share a view of one's word, the person that is maybe on the field, capture a digital twin of that and share this 3D model potentially live between the field and the back office, so that you can basically collaborate by seeing the same thing and then being able to annotate back and forth to be able to transmit instruction to solve a problem or show things of interest. Usually those communication are being stressed when using video or paper or email communication in trying to provide the context. So AR can basically not capture, but display that context, the digital twin, the terrain or the plant environment, so that you can communicate effectively back and forth and in real time between the back office and the field. Another area that I'd like to mention that has not been mentioned yet is also in onboarding and training, where you might want to show a virtual HR person that will show an employee how to onboard, how to use a facility of the plant or the environment is also another area that AR can help with.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And there's lots of great training. In fact, the term training, and I need to actually sit down and write this out one day, but training as we traditionally know it, I think will disappear. You know, the whole idea that people could use AR to start doing a task straight away, and especially with the environment we find in that you can't stand on someone's shoulder to watch what they're doing. But actually, if you're taken through the process using augmented reality, you're learning on the job and actually completing the task. So I think there's some real benefits there. The other little bit, just again to throw it out there before we move on to the next question, you know, where AR I think works best is when the task they're trying to achieve is kind of infrequent and complex. You know, having someone who's using AR just, I don't know, to put a tire on a car and continue to do that every day adds no benefit. Does anyone want to kind of, I think then using IoT data to say, hey, something's wrong, you know, we need to fix this, or that preemptive kind of fixing, to me is a real sweet spot. Has anybody kind of had any experience or thoughts about those kind of use cases?
Well, definitely there is a preventive maintenance opportunity where you can show alert onto the equipment to quickly and unambiguously show where there is a potential area that needs to be addressed. So it's one of the use case, but one mentioned previously as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. And then I guess it's just making sure that people understand that a problem needs to be solved, and those problems that are really tough fit really well to the AR. Okay, so let's go on to our second question. And I like to call this second question, show me the money, as the famous film bit goes. You know, any company that needs to invest in this sort of technology needs to know how much it costs, but more importantly, how much they're going to save or make. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the ROI and some of the benefits that you get from deploying AR, certainly in the IoT context. So perhaps, Rosario, let me start with you this time.
Sure. Well, there are two types of return on investments. One are the ones that are related with the efficiency and the best result and quicker result and so forth. And I will give a specific example with both of them. And the second one is when we are avoiding an undesirable risk, like an accident, like a, and I used to give an example of this was one of our first business cases, but of course is still very relevant, and is people keeping the electric grid working in the cities. Is a big amount of people, but they are getting older, and younger people is not entering the industry. And the energy industry is renewing, and we are moving as a planet to alternative renewable energies. Then all these systems that were working and are still working, they don't need just to be maintained as they are, but they need to be renewed with a new technology. Then basically when you can use this technology to keep training the people, not just in what they should do every day, but in what they need to do in the next days, in the near future. And you can use both to improve the operation itself. You are not just avoiding accidents. I don't know if you know, but or maybe of course you know, many of you, accidents when people is learning how to repair a power plant, for example, or connecting some systems in the cities, the accidents and fatal accidents are happening every time. And of course, the life cost is something that is not a return on investment, but is really saving lives. On the other hand, the improvement and the training is that you don't have to stop the operation of a very good person maintaining and repairing, but you can start training the people by the system itself. You can start creating an interface to train. We really use virtual reality and augmented reality because virtual reality can be used isolated at home, at the employees' homes, in a way that we know when they are ready to go to the field. And then we use the augmented reality component in a way that they can have the assistance in the field. And we are training and improving the training system in virtual reality via the interaction in the augmented reality side. Then that's where we see examples, specific examples of money saved and efficiency coming.
Fantastic, thank you. Gabby, do you want to make a comment or two about the ROI question?
Yeah, I think it's really easy because if you study your use case really well in a business, in a new company which knows something about AR or doesn't know something AR, and if you calculate really good, the investment, I think, is not a good, I don't know, big investment. Because I can give you an example. We have a client and we have implemented a solution to them, and they are using AR in a factory, and we have calculated the time for induction. For example, induction for new employees was like 3 weeks, something like that. And we have reduced the time to 5 hours using AR. So just calculate 5 hours to 3 weeks. So it was really easy for us to make this use case and to show them that if they are using AR, it's really easy for everybody. They don't put their money in their pocket. They just earn money. You know, that was our commercial strategy. And I don't know. I think is the next. I told you later, is the really next future for AR, and if we all will do something in this industry, I think the AR will be there. It will change everything in how our businesses will be think in future. You know.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gabby. Johan, some of your thoughts, sir.
Yes, so I think AR or VR has been shown to provide great gain in many areas, including training, operation, maintenance, and there is many number out there. Obviously, those number are kind of preliminary, but we are talking about 50% or more saving time. In some case, 80% or more of retention time compared to using book. So there is big number. Obviously, those kind of use cases have been often chosen and picked so that they are showing good results and have relevance to the AR VR, but the number are there. It's definitely big benefit, and it's usually because AR provide a context to the information that usually we might see on a virtual version of the environment or on a dashboard that does not show where this information belongs. So it makes it easy to understand, to filter to the direction you're focusing in, to attach it what it belongs in a very unambiguous way. So there is a lot of benefit from that in not having to recreate the real world, a virtual version of it like a map or 3D model, and allowing people to see this information on the machine itself.
Perfect, thank you. And David.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think maybe a little later on, some of our customer examples might, better show some of the benefits. But I think in general, we're sort of, in terms of industrial digital transformation, directing our customers to take more value-centric approaches. So in terms of AR and what the key KPIs it can unlock, it really can be across different functions, whether it's training, like we were talking about, and ramping up onboarding times, or other, manufacturing operation-centric ones, such as productivity, or service ones, even such as technician effectiveness or first-time fix rates. A lot of our conversations are going around there first, and then we, you know, slowly start to say how the technology brings you there. And the other side of it, you know, maybe a lot of, you know, panelists did a great job explaining a lot of the ROI today. When I think about spatial computing, I think a lot about the future use cases that, you know, will integrate IoT and AR. And for me, really, spatial computing is both on the robotics side. It can be anything like an autonomous vehicle navigating streets, or vehicles moving good in Amazon warehouses. But it's really, AR is really the mechanism for humans to kind of access this environment. And I think in the future of work, there'll be both. So one thing that comes to mind in terms of improving worker performance in the future is robotic reprogramming. So this is something our reality lab has been experimenting with a little bit, but essentially bringing simple and visual programming and logic into the AR field of view to, you know, reconfigure the robot's movements on the factory line. And then this, you know, can have a huge impact on downtime as well as changeover times. So, you know, again, thinking about that value-centric view. And then, you know, another one around spatial analytics, AR tapping into, you know, a fleet of workers and being able to capture worker data. You get better insight into your production capacity, and you can improve manufacturing processes and labor efficiencies, and on and on. So those, you know, kind of futuristic spatial ones, you know, maybe 5 to 10 years out, but, you know, starting to think about those interesting use cases across industrial.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, David. I've just realized in my rush to get you guys all introduced to the panel, I didn't really introduce myself that well. So sorry about that. So let me just do that real quick because it is relevant to the ROI bit. So the area stands for Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance. We're a global membership funded not-for-profit alliance helping to accelerate the adoption of enterprise AR. So www.thearea.org. One of the things we have been focusing on a lot is the ROI question, because unfortunately, whilst we're working with this great technology, quite often the process that happens within established companies are, hey, show me the money, you know, show me how much it's going to cost and how much we're going to save. So one of the things we have done to our, we give it to our members first. And just to be clear, our members kind of fall into 3 segments. We have companies that are deploying AR, so likes of Boeing, ExxonMobil, Ford. We have a bigger group of companies providing AR solutions, and I'm pleased to say that PTC is one of our members, and we have a bunch of third non-commercial organizations, government agencies, research institutes, and standards organization. But time and time again, the issue is that you have to convince the people with the budget that AR is a good investment and IoT is a good investment. So we have made our ROI calculator available for anybody to use. Please go along to the Area website. You can find the link to ROI, but the more kind of examples that we can talk about within the industry, and I know PTC does a great job as well as some other organizations, the better everyone's going to get. We really need to inform the ecosystem that there is huge benefits to be made by delivering AR, and the panels talked about some of those things. The other, I think, interesting bit, you know, we are in this pandemic. There are a number of companies that are unfortunately having to lose staff. You know, being able to capture that information, and again, AR is a great platform and a great tool to do that. But also the next set of workers that come along are obviously the youngsters, are much younger than me, who will absolutely love and enjoy and actually want to use this technology as well. So some of the kind of intangible benefits that we can get from AR, you know, really kind of focus on that space as well. You know, let's get it working now so the youth of tomorrow will come and actually use this technology. So my apologies, that was a bit long, but I just wanted to, I forgot to introduce myself and hopefully that helps. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. And one of the things that we find again within the area, you know, people want to understand the problems that are being solved, the use cases. They want to understand the ROI. So how much is it going to cost? How much are they going to make or save? But they also want to know real life examples. They want to actually see that other companies have done this, maybe because they don't feel quite as scared if they go down this journey as well. So the next question is really about real life examples. I'm going to ask the panel, actually going to start with Johan this time, to talk about, in your experience, some real life projects that you've been working on and some real life case studies.
Yes, so there is mainly 2 projects that we work on that I can talk about. but no actual deployment. I'm not the right person, unfortunately, for that, because we are usually working at the edge of the technology on proof of concept and solving problems for the field. But one of them was with firefighter and soldier, into showing the location of the firefighter inside of a building, so that we know where they are located inside the building, and you can extend the concept further by also showing the reading from sensor data, such as a temperature sensor, so that you can see what is the temperature at this point in the building, and resolve issues such as building becoming disabled and falling down, and you have some first responder that can be stuck inside, or friendly shooting in the field of defense, so that you know the guy coming around the corner behind this wall is actually your buddy and not an enemy. So those are kind of R&D projects that we work on, as well as a project we did with Accenture on an innovation center in Singapore, where we connected a water pump with AR to show how to maintain that water pump by showing step-by-step instruction, not on a separate screen, but actually on the machine, and then showing sensor data from the machine, as well as the user interface that provide the ability to control the machine and switch on and off the pump. So those are the projects we were involved in, but not deployed as of yet.
Perfect, thank you. And we may come back to the question about something I call pilot purgatory, so to hold on to that thought. David, perhaps I could ask you from a PTC perspective. I know you've done a huge amount of great projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll stick with two stories as well. One pretty relevant, and I think it was a really interesting one. So being that it was a coronavirus story. So GKN, who is an auto and aerospace manufacturer, and Smiths Medical healthcare or medical device manufacturer collaborated in a consortia to produce 10,000 ventilators during the COVID-19 crisis. Obviously GKN wasn't familiar with manufacturing healthcare products at all, but time was of the essence in this situation. And I thought it was really interesting that Smiths Medical used AR to capture the step-by-step assembly and production procedures of its ventilators, and then transferred this knowledge to around 1,000 of GKN's production workers, who, again, with no previous medical device background, could quickly take this information and ramp up ventilator production, to hit that 10,000 mark. So I thought that was a really interesting use of AR to help this problem, as well as show that the technology can be deployed really quickly when there's a goal like that in mind. The other one that I think is pretty interesting with Volvo Trucks, Volvo's facing challenges with maintaining product quality, which is one of their differentiations, but with trends such as mass customization, meaning there's a lot of different customized versions of their products they offer to their customers, which is a differentiation, but that means the products are more complex. So, managing this complexity on the manufacturing floor is pretty challenging, such as their engines have around 4,500 different variants in just one plant. So thinking about how that impacts AR, their quality assurance process specifically, their operators have to complete these quality checks in 8 minutes. They consist of 40 checks, and again, there's 200 possible variants that could come to play. With AR, getting them the right information, the right checklist for the right configuration at the right time can save them a ton of time and improve their quality. And they also measured some powerful results in terms of onboarding new operators from 5 to less than 2 weeks. So those are two, I think, pretty cool recent examples for PTC.
That's fantastic. The other thing I could possibly add to that as well, David, I know there's a fantastic report that was done by Jim Hoffman and Harvard as well, that I often refer to in some of my area talks. I think it's called What Every Manager Needs to Know About AR Strategy. And there's a few of the area members there with some great savings and stuff like that. So that's another great piece of content that you guys have provided, and well worth having a look. Okay, Rosario, over to you.
Well, I will mention 3 projects that are very different, but at the end are they have something really interesting in common that we are taking advantage of. One is with a company of solar panels. They need to start scaling their installation and, of course, training people. This moment of COVID-19 is even giving more challenges for them to train the people. Then what we are doing is building all the digital manuals, let's say, to be able to guide and assist the people who will be installing them in the field. And a lot of work that we are allocating there is understanding how the people is using this information, installing the panels, and how we can improve the processes from there. The second process is with truck drivers. This is a company, a specific company with a challenge because a lot of accidents are happening because drivers are not necessarily checking all or doing the checklist before jumping into the truck and then driving the truck. And it's amazing. I don't even know how to drive a car. Then I'm not I was very surprised when I realized all those requirements that were needed. Then what we were doing was training the drivers in creating the neural pattern for them to do the checklist in a visual way, and then going back to the trucks with the augmented reality interface in a way that this will be an habit for them, and the controller of this operation can check that they are really accomplishing all this. This is a company also with a very, let's say, sensitive material that they are transporting. Then the check list of the external part of the truck is as well very important, as much as the internal part of the truck before start driving. And what we are also using from there is from those interactions, we are learning very much what really needs to be handled when they are deciding which type of drivers to contract or not. It is also like feeding the selection process. And the third one is we are starting a project with a port. And from there, in this COVID-19 moment, everybody has a challenge with the installation of new facilities, because usually people was traveling from one side of the world to the other. And right now it is not possible to do it that way. Then augmented reality is helping us to build all those instructions and all these assistance in the field for the people installing the new facilities. Those are 3 cases where, well, this is giving us very specific result. And what we are taking from all of those, and what we are finding is that also start training the recognition of specific equipments and procedures that a lot of companies are requiring in different verticals is where we are building our own libraries of image recognition for the augmented reality solutions.
Fantastic, thank you. It's great to hear some of those case studies. Gabby, to you, sir.
Yes, I was thinking to speak about two use cases, to clients and to fields. One is culture and one is automotive. I will start with culture because we have used AR in culture. How in our city we have an app, and using your phone you can point your phone to, I don't know, a historical building, and it will appear in 3D the building, and with all the historical information about the building, when it was built, what it was his history, and you can actually enter virtual or augmented reality, yeah, you can enter the building, one-to-one building, yeah. And this was really cool for us because it's different now, having the COVID era. The people couldn't enter to churches or museums and stuff like that, and now it was really good for everybody that wanted to visit our city, to know our history and to know everything about us. And the second example, we have implemented a solution in automotive field. The solution was used by just let me find the word, the team that has project the future car. Okay, the design team. This is the future. This is the word. So they have used our solution to build in AR every part of the future model of the car, and they have spent not too much money because they have built every part of the car only in AR, not using materials, you know. And it was really cool for them to use AR. And now we have worked more on this project, and we will come to them with a mixed reality room where they can actually, how should I say, draw the future, their future car, every part of it. You know? I will probably send you some links.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So just a quick summary from me on that. What's really great is that there's lots of different problems being solved, but they are actually business problems. And the one thing we talk a lot about, you know, it's not technology for technology's sake. You need to be solving real business problems, but you can solve them across industries. In fact, one of the things I see a lot within the area is the same kind of problems, things like remote assistance, step-by-step guides being used by all sorts of different industries. So you've actually got technology which transfers to different industries as well. My other kind of big wish for the industry to really help us is more companies and more certainly enterprises deploying AR to talk about it, to be able to talk about it. It's often kind of seen as there's a bit of secret sauce here, and you know we shouldn't tell anybody because other people will be doing it. Actually, is quite easy to replicate, but the more we talk about it, the better the industry gets and things like that. So if you have an opportunity to talk about some of your case studies, please do. Okay. So I just remind everybody, if there's any questions for the panel, please feel free to send it. But if we can now have a look at the results of the poll, it would be good. Wow, there we go. Interesting. So let's let people just digest that. There's a really good question from Ian Hughes. Thank you, Ian. I'll put this out to the panel. Do you think the pandemic might act as a further catalyst for actual adoption as AR as the user interface for IoT? And so you don't have to touch machines or engage with them. Plus, you know, the social distancing, allowing remote experts and things like that. So it's a pretty wide question reflecting on some of the COVID stuff. Does anybody want to have a go at answering that? Was I clear with the question?
Well, I can jump there. I don't only think that it can be a way to integrate or to connect the user with the machines without touching them, but I also think that it will allow a lot of companies to avoid massive interaction of people. I mean, breaking the social distancing will be complex in the next months at least, and having these tools, for sure, the adoption of AR solutions integrated with the Internet of Things could help very much in this COVID-19 moment.
Can say something as well, Mark?
Of course, please do.
Coming back to what I was talking about earlier about sharing a digital twin of an environment for collaboration. So obviously this trend has accelerated a lot, but it's not only for the industrial world or IoT. It's generally the trend of bringing a digital twin of the physical environment at home or in the office rather than going to the actual physical environment is accelerating on many areas, including entertainment, sport, retail, and all kind of other experience, not only on the enterprise sector, but that's a big trend I see.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
But don't forget that augmented reality is based on reality. So you'll have to work with reality. So you'll have to touch the machine. So, or somebody will touch the machine.
Well, yeah, and again, I've seen some use cases where you're actually using AR to
activate it.
Yeah, to actually moving the machine on and stuff like that. I know there are companies working on that. So maybe one day we won't actually be physically touching the machines. That could be very interesting.
Could be controlling a robot touching the machine.
Yes, indeed.
AR and robots. I think this will be the
next next talk. Yeah, absolutely. What we can take from this this short or small survey is, what we've got. 80% of people have said actually it's either increased or it stayed the same in terms of the interest in AR and strategy. So I think that backs up certainly the conversations I've had with many of the organizations. They just all wish they were a bit further on. But we still need to help that ecosystem and the people successfully deploy AR, and there's definitely some continued challenges to successfully deploy the technology. Okay, so we're getting towards the end now, and the last question that I've posed to the panel is about looking at AR technology trends. So I've asked them to look at 4 AR technology trends to keep an eye on, just have a little bit of future kind of proofing. So I think, Gabby, can I start with you, please? Have you got some ideas on what the trends would be?
I think robots. AR robots. I think this will be probably this will be our utopic term now, but probably this will be the future. I think more and more companies they understand now what AR means, and they are interested in it. And I think the trend I feel now it's about communication, it's about education also. And in terms of education, I think the universities now all over the world, they are trying to use the new technologies and AR to show how or to do their classes. And I think this is I feel now that this is the new trend, and I hope that they will use AR properly, and we will be there for them.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you indeed. Rosario, let me ask you, I know when we've been speaking before, you also touched on, well, in fact, no, sorry, do your bits, because there's a really interesting question.
Please, but also,
well, there's a great question about, this is from Thomas, about how much of a game changer will the introduction of 5G and multi-access edge computing be to the success of AR and VR in industrial applications. I know you were going to touch on that kind of point in some of the trends. So just emphasizing that and also answering Thomas's question as well.
Well, sure. Well, I really think that's one of the key points, the relation between 5G and computing capacity and new computing systems. because of course that will facilitate all these assets that we are building when we are talking about digital twins, for example, as Johan was mentioned. All these are consuming a lot of bandwidth, a lot of data and processing. And if we can have more near real time and more efficient systems, and we can increase the way or improve the way people can collaborate within the same asset in a near real time, we will be really talking about smart cities, for example. We will be really being able to know what's happening in a city and having all the people working not only in the real town, but in the digital twin, and also the approach or the approximation or the matching space between the digital twin and the real reality will be even better with 5G. Also for sure, for me, convergence of this technology and standards are something really important. We are today talking of all X, M, R, A, I, V, R realities. And for me, we are close to the moment. Well, with close, I hope to be talking about a year or so or less, but of a moment when all these technologies could coincide in a way that we can use this interface in a more dense or less dense way. But at the end, building, when I'm talking about virtual reality, in our case, we are working with real life content, with volumetric copies of the reality, let's say it this way, then for sure convergence is something very important. And also the sensors and the cameras and all the ways to capture that reality in a way that we can create decision systems that are really making sense of what is in the context, in the real world, not in the digital one. Just to approach both of them in a real way. That's where I think there will be a big disruption.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, certainly in the area, we're beginning to focus much more on interoperability and standards. Now, that's not to say the area is not a standards organization, but we've created great partnerships with all of them, or certainly many of them. And they kind of come to us to talk about what the businesses need, the industry kind of needs. So you're absolutely right. I think it is, yeah. Thank you for that. Johan.
Yes, thanks. So as far as the trend that I'm seeing in AR, over the last couple of years, we have had definitely a commoditization of the industry and arguably a market, especially on the VR side, with devices like the Quest that are like less than the price of a phone, and now that makes sense to buy, all integrated with ability to track yourself, your hand, and everything on one platform. Big player like Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft are really going forward in this area, and things like ARKit and ARCore have allowed us to go from the marker to being able to augment things in a room, and soon we'll be able to go outside and augment the world with things like the visual positioning system, which is an extension of ARKit and ARCore that actually work like the GPS and report the position like the GPS. So these are the big trend, in addition of what I was saying earlier of acceleration of use of VR and AR to bring a digital twin version of the physical world at home or in the office environment, so that you can work on it remotely or collaborate. One thing that I have seen that I have not seen out of the IoT field yet, and it might be just because we are not well in line with what's going on at this time, as we were going more in the IoT field again recently, is standardization and really communities that try to push things forward, like what we see in AR with things like ARKit, ARCore, AR Foundation, Facebook and Google and Apple and Microsoft creating device and testing those devices early with developer. It seems in IoT we still have those stacks with a bit of a difficult entry point in choosing which stack to go with.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I agree. And we asked the first question to David, and now we're going to ask the last question to David, or give him the last bit. So David, over to you in terms of the technology trends in AR.
Yeah, I think, you know, they're all pretty much hit by the rest of the panelists. I guess two things I could add on is we are noticing a transition of companies that are escaping pilot purgatory and transitioning POCs to the real world. And again, we see companies that are taking a financial first approach to that. Along the same lines, like I have with the Volvo and GKN examples, we're seeing a transition from sales and marketing use cases, kind of where a lot of AR enterprise adoption began, at least for us, to use cases that are impacting mission critical systems such as quality assurance on the factory floor or assembly procedures. So those are a couple shifts we noticed. And to kind of come back to this kind of virtualization or digital twin of everything idea, I definitely agree with the rest of the panelists there. We've gotten a lot of ask about, how do companies maintain business continuity during, these COVID times when they're constrained in terms of their staff, their travel issues, there's workspace congestion issues and their capacity. They can't, a lot of our manufacturing customers are having issues with that. A lot of this, got a lot of uptick in our remote assistance solutions where, providing over-the-shoulder support from a remote expert can better scale, the tacit knowledge that many of these industrial companies' employees have, but it's more of a frontline worker tool versus, Zoom or Slack that would more or less benefit a desk worker such as us. So those are a few things that we've been noticing.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, David. And that, I guess when we come to the end of the panel, really just to summarize all of that, I think it's been a great conversation. Thank you for all your insights. I think the AR ecosystem, I've been lucky enough doing this role for 4 years now, and we're definitely moving forward. I think COVID, unfortunate as it is, but it's certainly brought AR to people's kind of view a lot better, and to the sort of senior management piece. I think as an ecosystem, we need to continue to share. We need to continue to focus on the value that the industry brings to organizations and things like that. And, thank everybody out there for the work they do, but kind of keep going and let's keep talking about it. Let's keep pushing it. Let's keep, showing the benefits and stuff like that. Because together, it's a great technology. It's solving some real life problems and things like that. So finally, can I just thank you all, David, Johan, Gabby, Rosiella. It's been really enjoyable. And yeah, please put teeth back in, reach out on LinkedIn or anything like that. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, everybody.